Okay, so get ready for this one because we're diving deep into a chapter from this novel, A Separate Piece by John Knowles.
Okay.
It's a World War II story.
Oh,
But instead of like huge battles and all that stuff, we're kind of zeroing in on this character, Leper.
oh, interesting.
And his like biggest fight ends up being almost against the war itself in a weird way.
Oh, wow.
We've got one chapter
Okay.
to unpack here, just one chapter, but trust me, there's a lot there.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating because this story actually takes place when the Allied victory was pretty much guaranteed.
Oh, really?
You would think that would bring relief.
Right.
But
Okay.
for Leper, it's the opposite.
Interesting.
He's caught up in all these like constantly changing training programs,
Oh, wow.
bouncing around between bases.
Oh, gosh.
As the military is trying to adapt to all the new technologies and strategies.
I see. So it makes you wonder then, with all of this pressure to win and to always be like one step ahead,
Exactly.
even as the war was winding down, what kind of pressure were all of these young men under?
Oh, yeah. And for Leper especially, all this upheaval, it just becomes a huge factor in like his whole psychological unraveling.
Oh, I
He's
see.
a sensitive guy,
Yeah.
drawn to nature, routine, all that.
Uh,
So this chaotic environment, it just throws him way off.
yeah, I bet. And then, like, out of the blue, he sends this telegram
Oh, no.
that just says, I escaped.
Oh.
And naturally, his friend, who's also telling the story, he imagines lepers made this, like, daring escape from enemy territory or something.
Of course, like a POW camp or something.
Yeah, who wouldn't think that, right? 'Cause
Sure.
it's wartime.
Yeah.
We're all expecting these, heroic stories.
Right, exactly.
But what the narrator finds when he actually goes to visit Leper in Vermont
Yeah.
is so far from a war hero.
Oh, really?
Leper's holed up in the dining room,
Oh.
totally fixated on these weird routines,
Oh, okay.
and just snapping at his mom constantly.
Wow.
Like he's desperately trying for just a tiny bit of control in this world that's become completely unpredictable.
It's like he's retreating into this very specific space, this dining room.
Right.
And you could say that symbolizes his attempt to just create a sense of order.
It's the one place where he feels like he can decide what happens.
Exactly. And it's in this like safe space that he tells the truth.
Oh.
He didn't escape from the enemy.
Oh, okay.
He was discharged.
Huh.
Section 8.
Wow.
Basically, the army just labeled him psycho.
That's a lot.
Yeah, you can imagine the stigma back then
Oh, yeah.
with a label like that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Leper knows this will follow him everywhere,
Right.
that people are just going to see him as broken or unstable.
And this is also like a time when mental health was not understood at all the way it is now.
Exactly. There was no talk of PTSD or trauma or anything like that.
Right. So Leper's just left on his own
Yeah.
to deal with these unbelievably complex feelings of fear and disillusionment and isolation.
And the way Knowles uses language here, it's so powerful.
Really?
Leper describes his experiences
Yeah.
in this like fragmented, almost disorienting way. Like
Yeah.
his words are mirroring this breakdown that he's experiencing internally.
It's like he's trying to tell you something, but he
No.
can't quite get it out.
He talks about things being inside out, the food being disgusting. He even mentions hallucinations.
Oh, wow.
He's clearly just struggling to make sense of everything.
And it's interesting because even the regular language of the Army, like reception center, mess hall,
Right.
it all contributes to this feeling of being lost and rehumanized.
Exactly. These words are supposed to instill order and efficiency, but instead they just highlight how much Leper feels like he doesn't belong.
And what's even more telling is the narrator's reaction.
Oh, yeah.
He is just completely overwhelmed by Leper's story. It's like he just can't handle how dark and raw it all is.
Yeah, he wants to hold on to that kind of idealized vision of war,
I get.
where guys like him are going off to be heroes.
Right.
Leper's experience just completely shatters that illusion
Yeah.
and forces him to confront this way more unsettling reality.
It's almost like he's looking into a mirror
Right.
and he hates what he sees.
Exactly.
And it makes you think, what would it have taken for the narrator to actually understand what Leper went through?
Yeah.
What would it have taken for him to get that what happened to Leper could happen to anyone?
Right. Anyone. It's kind of heartbreaking because Leper's story, it's not just about one soldier's breakdown.
Right.
It really shows like a much bigger issue.
Yeah.
The way society back then especially
Yeah.
struggled to understand and help those dealing with these invisible wounds of war.
It's like he's trapped in this impossible situation.
Right.
He's been so affected by this military experience,
No,
but He doesn't have the language or the support to even start to process what's happened.
Just imagine the turmoil
I
he
know.
must have been going through, right?
Yeah.
On one hand, he's relieved to be out of this chaotic, unpredictable environment.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, he's stuck with this psycho label, this stigma that could follow him his whole life.
And that fear of being labeled and ostracized, that's got to be something that still rings true today.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though we've come a long way with mental health,
Yeah.
there's still this stigma, especially for veterans.
Oh, yeah. Even now, veterans struggle to find the support they need when they come home,
Yeah.
carrying these invisible wounds.
Leper's story really highlights how far we've come, but also how far we still have to go.
Totally. It's like this chapter is holding a mirror up to society,
Yeah.
both then and now. It's asking us to look at how we treat those who don't fit in.
Especially during war.
Exactly. And you can't forget about those societal expectations at play either.
Of course.
During World War II, there was this super strong, almost romantic idea
Yeah.
of what a soldier should be.
Uh-huh.
Tough, stoic, totally patriotic,
Right.
leper with his sensitivity, his introspection.
Yeah.
He just didn't fit that mold.
He represents that truth that not everyone reacts to war the same way.
Exactly.
Some people break up. You
Yeah.
know, some people find a way to cope,
Mhm.
and some people are just changed forever.
Exactly. And back then, there just wasn't space for that.
Yeah.
It was black and white, hero or coward,
Right.
strong or weak.
Yeah.
And sadly, leper got caught in that system.
And labeled psycho just because he couldn't be what they expected.
It makes you think if those expectations, that pressure to conform,
Right.
if that actually made his breakdown worse.
Like he was trying so hard to be what everyone wanted, and it just backfired.
And that brings us to another big part of the story. Escape.
Oh, okay.
On the surface, Leper is escaping the army.
Right.
But if you look closer,
Yeah.
he's actually escaping something much bigger.
What's that?
Society itself.
Wow.
It's like he's saying, I can't be the soldier you want me to be,
Yeah.
so I'm going to make my own space, my own reality.
And that's where the dining room becomes really important.
Right, it represents this little bubble of order and control.
In this world that feels so chaotic.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the one place where he gets to decide what happens.
He sets the rules, the routines,
Right.
and he gets a little bit of peace.
But even in his escape, he's still haunted by everything.
Yeah.
He's still dealing with the trauma,
Uh-huh.
and he doesn't have the tools to really heal.
And that's where the narrator's reaction is just so crucial.
Right. He represents how society responds to trauma.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to understand Leper, he just pushes him away.
It's like he's saying, I can't deal with this.
Exactly.
It's too much for me.
It's too messy.
Right.
And by doing that, he just makes the stigma worse.
And it isolates veterans like Leper.
It's a tough reminder that the hardest battles aren't always on the battlefield.
Yeah.
They're inside us, in our communities,
Mm.
as we try to understand and support those carrying the unseen wounds of war.
It's almost like Knowles is using Leper as like this cautionary tale, you know,
Sure.
showing us what happens when we don't see those invisible wounds of war.
It really makes you think about those long-term consequences, right?
Oh, yeah.
Of ignoring mental health
For everyone.
for the individual and for society.
And it makes you wonder how many other lepers were out there struggling because they didn't have the support.
It's a question that I think about a lot, honestly,
Yeah, me too.
especially knowing that even today, so many veterans face those same challenges.
It's true. The stigma might not be as obvious,
Right.
but it's definitely still there.
Yeah.
We've come so far with mental health, but we still have so far to go,
Yeah, and I think part of that is changing what it means to be a soldier,
right?
what it means to be strong.
We have to see that being vulnerable isn't weakness.
Exactly.
Asking for help, that takes courage.
It does.
It's about making veterans feel safe to share their experiences
Right.
without being judged.
And that starts with listening,
Yeah.
really listening, even when it's hard.
Because those stories, they have so much to teach us,
They do.
even when they're tough to hear.
They teach us about resilience, about how strong and fragile we can be.
About empathy.
Yeah.
Leper's story, even with all the darkness,
Right.
it has this little bit of hope, you know?
It does.
He finds peace in those routines,
Yeah.
in the dining room.
Yeah, making order out of the chaos.
It shows that even when things are broken,
Yeah.
when you feel lost,
There's still that part of you that wants to heal.
right.
And sometimes it's the small things that get you started.
As we finish up this deep dive, I think it's important to remember that Leper's journey,
Yeah.
it's fictional, but it reflects a real struggle.
For sure.
for so many people who have served.
Absolutely. Their stories are important.
They deserve to be heard.
And their needs met with compassion.
It's a call to action for all of us,
It is.
to be more aware of those invisible wounds.
Yeah.
To fight the stigma around mental health.
To support those who have served.
Leper's story is a reminder that coming back from war is hard.
Right.
And it takes a long time.
And they need our support.
Not just on the battlefield.
But when they come home, too.
Let's honor them by making a world where they feel seen and heard.
Beautifully said. And to our listener,
Yeah.
we hope this deep dive made you think about the effects of war.
Uh-huh.
Keep exploring. Keep asking questions.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.